Hi, my name is Richard Fong, and I'm a teacher at SATEC.
So, Mr. Fong, I was just wondering, I was going to ask you a couple of questions on parenting and how you took care of your children during that period of time. So,
Sure.
the first question is, in the early stages of caring for your child, what was the most important skill you would consider one must have?
Probably patience, because for, obviously, especially if it's your first child, you don't really know how much time you have to spend to take care of your child. Not only do you have to take care of the child, basically the child is totally dependent on you. Everything they need, you have to provide for them. So you can't just ignore them. At the same time, you also the child impacts the time you have with your wife, your significant other, and the rest of your family. So the way you live before that has to change, and you have to be patient with some of those changes. Sometimes changes are things you don't really like or prefer. Some that you look forward to.
What was the most tedious task of caring for a child?
Actually, for myself or my wife, for anyone,
Oh,
or just my
for
personal-
yourself.
I have to admit, my wife did a lot of the more tedious stuff, but she's pretty good at that. But I guess making sure, basic planning and making sure everything was ready. For instance, when you want to leave and travel, you can't just put on a coat and go.
Yeah.
You have to plan for the specific needs of the child. And and for example, if the kid has to go to the washroom, you just can't take them to the bathroom. You have to make sure you have every single product that you need or item that you needed. A 2-hour trip has to also involve not just washing, but food too. And you also have to plan in case the child gets impatient, something to distract them with or whatever. So I guess proper planning for things, especially for trips, was probably the toughest thing, most tedious. Yeah.
So, when you were caring for your child, did you feel any stress in any sort of way or anxiety, like small or large, in like a scale?
Oh, probably, yeah. I mean, it's hard to really remember, think that for a fact, but I'm pretty sure I was worried, especially when the baby is sick. It's probably the most stressful because you don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
You know, you can take the temperature. Do you give the baby drugs that you know of, or are there other treatments you try? You go nowadays with the internet, it helps a little bit because you can go online and search for other options. Whereas before, you just have, maybe if you're lucky, you have some books, right? Or you call your mom or something like that, right?
During the experience of taking care of a child, did you develop in any sort of way, like emotionally, physically? Like, did you have any development over that period of time as a person?
Hard to say. I guess you have more responsibility. I suppose you get more responsibility, based especially on other things that I mentioned before. You're having to think ahead and plan. You do tend to become more responsible rather than just going off and doing things. I probably say that's the biggest one. Yeah.
So when you're taking care of your child over that period of time, what would you consider like quality time that you spend? Like, what would you do as quality time with your child?
Oh, anything. Pretty much anything you do with your children. We're talking about like how young are we going for?
Like generally like from when they're born to like around 5, 6, 7 years old. So like
Okay,
not
perfect,
too young,
yeah.
but like when they're still children.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's this one photograph I have. The one picture that I took when I was walking down the beaches area with my 2 kids, and I saw a snail on the ground.
Oh, okay.
Right? And I said, "Look, a snail!" And my at this time I had 2 kids, my 2 older boys. They were able to walk, and they both crouched down. They're looking at it really intently, and I thought that was a great moment. I crouched down right down to the cement, took a picture of that, and every time I see that, it makes me feel really good because that's one of the most precious moments I have with my kids, showing them things. Right, getting them to learn, understand the real world. I think that's one of the things I like to do with them is talk with them about and try to get them to develop, basically.
Were there any financial difficulties? Like, were there difficulties, or was it like okay, or was it like were you able to like provide them with everything, not just necessities, but like anything that they would have wanted, like.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to admit, in my case, I'm considered a late bloomer, so we had kids later in our life. So by the time I started a family with my wife, the both of us were well established in our careers, so we were had no problems, taking care of our kids financially because of that.
So everything was like mostly like set for.
Yeah, we were never. Let's put it this way: there's never something where we had to stop and say, we'd like to have that, but we really can't get it. I mean, we're both full-time workers in our mid-careers. We could get pretty much whatever we needed if we needed it.
I know for certain people, they would say that more stressful times of taking care of a child was when they were very young, but other people would say it was when they tended to grow up and they started like kind of explore on their own. So for you, like if there was any time, did you do any like different like routines or like activities to like reduce your stress levels in like scenarios where you might be like really stressed out, like spend some time on your own or like do an activity? Like,
I mean, you hit it on the head. You spend some time on your own because when you're working with somebody else, and you're focused on their needs, and you deal with it as best you can, you feel stressed out, you have to take care of yourself. Honestly, you do. It's not being selfish. So for myself, I mean, trying to think what I did. It could be just reading, or watching a movie, just unwinding time. That's all you really need.
Since like now you've had your children and now they're like grown up, do you feel that if this was like before your children were born, that you could have been like more cautious or more prepared for like certain events that could have occurred, but you didn't like completely realize that didn't like have any significance? So do you think like you could have been more prepared for anything? Or
honestly, you could, because the thing is, there's so many things that could happen. You usually find yourself at that time looking back and saying, I should have prepared for this. Right? But but the one thing you do develop is a sense of being able to take care of things as they come along. Right? And so, although I could have been more prepared, and I think I've seen some parents who are really ultra prepared. At the same time, that kind of intense preparedness, I think, kind of detracts a little bit from your life experience.
It's kind of better to like, it's better to kind of discover where like your family is going to like take you down in the future, rather than preparing everything step by step.
Exactly.
Okay. When your kids were born, did you have any like immediate family or like friends that like helped you like take care of your children, or was it like?
I have to admit, I was fortunate. Both my and my wife's families are Toronto. I had lots of support.
Oh, okay. So were there any do you know were there do you know what they do like specifically to help you?
Oh, for sure, yeah. One of the biggest things is my mom took care of my kids when they grew up. So by now you know that it's costs a lot of money to take for daycare.
Yeah.
And so she helped us on the one hand financially, because we didn't have to pay for a daycare. I mean, we still pay her, but obviously it's like family money.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, there's a level of comfort mentally, so maybe this addresses the stress part.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about my kids being in a third person's place, no matter how good they are, right? In this case, my kids were with family, and so I had no real worries in that sense.
Not specifically in Canada, but like in other cultures, people tend to have children in order to like continue on their family line. So do you feel like there were any like cultural or like implications in which you started a family, or was it like, were there any other like, or was it simply just to have a family, just like as simply have a family, or were there any sort of?
It's hard to answer that, because it could be cultural, because there's no question that I was going to have a family, right? And the question that the larger the better. And we expect have expected our kids to be raised as we were, to culturally be Chinese, to look after the elder generation, to think of the family a lot. So I guess in that sense, because it's ingrained in me, I suppose it was cultural.
So it's kind of not more specifically like seeing that you have to do this because of culture, but kind of because it was ingrained into you while you were a child. So
it's kind of hard to separate it, right? Because if it's ingrained in you that far, then it is.
It's kind of natural, right? Just for you to continue on.
Exactly.
Okay. Taking care of a child could be very hard and difficult, but what would you say is the most rewarding product that you receive out of doing all this work that might like stress, leave you stressed? So what would you feel is the most rewarded feeling?
You have someone that loves you, right? Someone that you can love back unconditionally. Someone who loves you back. So there's a connection there that with no matter how close your friends might be, and other family, for some reason there's this direct bond with this other living creature that just can't be replaced. You can't find it anywhere else.
Oh, I'm assuming like your kids are like, well, they're not kids anymore. I'm assuming,
Still
right?
kids, yeah.
Oh, okay. But like they're not young kids, right?
The oldest is high school.
Oh,
grade
okay,
9,
yeah.
but the youngest is still like grade 4. So
Oh, okay. But what would you, since you're like a parent and you're kind of out of the phase of caring for very young children,
Right.
what would you say or give advice or recommend to like new parents that are just having a child or going to have a child? What would be like the most important piece of advice that you would give them?
I guess just relax, because there's so many fears as a parent that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You want to protect your child, but on the other hand, I think you can be overprotective. So you want to allow yourself the fact that maybe some mistakes can happen. Obviously, I'm not saying you want huge mistakes, but little things that make you question whether did I do the right thing? In the long term, is it going to harm my kid?
Yeah.
I've seen too many of that kind of attitude where the parents so protect their kids so much.
Yeah.
The kids.
They just can't like let them.
It's a bit restrictive.
Yeah.
Right? That's within cultural boundaries too, right? But I say that's probably the biggest thing. Is just to have fun with the child, because your relationship with the child will change as the child gets older. And every year, every instant moment you're with a kid, it's special and unique. But there's a difference to that specialness, and so you're not going to have that special time with a really young kid.
Later on in the future, so kind of cherish
it,
and everything, just
cherish
let
it, relax
flow.
it. Don't get so stressed out that you can't enjoy it.
Oh,
I think that's where it's coming from. That
Yeah.
if you're too worried about doing the right thing and not making mistakes, then you're not going to enjoy yourself. Right?
Oh, okay. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Fong, for allowing me to conduct this interview with you about parenting and your experiences on parenting. And this will be very helpful for students in my class and also our teacher, Mr. Knight, to see another person's outlook on parenting, which may differ from theirs or which may be similar to theirs.
Okay, my pleasure.
Okay, thanks.